Well, hello everybody. Nini here again. And in this video, I want to go over kind of the rest of the CPS process, kind of continue where I left off on our last video. And I realize there's most likely no one watching at this moment, but I hope to grow my channel. My I also wanted to kind of share, a little bit of myself. I decided to start this channel for a couple of reasons. One of them because I have adopted one of my granddaughters, and I'm pretty. I had to go through the CPS and foster to adopt process for her. I have now adopted her. She's been with me a little over 4 years, and I adopted her in June of 2020 is when our adoption became final. And I'm a grandmother. I'm retired. Um, I want her to have a little bit of something, later in life. So I thought, well, I can start a channel. I can try to educate people. I can talk about our experiences, my personal experiences with this process, with adopting. Also, you know, um, uh, I want to also share, my experiences with DV and just some tragedies. And we all have tragedies in our lives, and we go through things. And I thought that it would be helpful for me and maybe other people out there if I share some of those things with you as I'm trying to grow this channel. Again, if the channel grows and it becomes, a bigger thing, then that'll be a way that I can, support her better and be able to give her something when she's of age. She's only 8 right now, so that's kind of what my hopes are. And if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it kind of helps me, having someone to talk to and to share things with. And I hope to grow the channel, and I hope to spread it around and um, make it be something. But and I'm very new. As you know, my first video, which was the last video, it was just a black screen I was talking on. And I learned now, I'm starting to learn how to use the StreamYard and, the avatars. And, there'll be sometimes when I show myself on camera, and sometimes that I just don't really feel like making myself presentable. So that being said, we there's been a lot going on with the Summer Wells case, and a lot going on with Candus and Dawn, and Dawn's in jail now, and the the kids are in the foster care system, and uh, the parents have had their parental rights terminated, which means there's no going back for them. There's no possibility of them getting their boys back in their custody once it hits that stage in the court process. Um, they would have had to have completed a lot of things and still be on track for the judge to consider them, the kids going back in their custody. However, it tells us that we've gotten to this point, which is 10 months since Summer's been gone. And the process right now in the court system would be at about the 8 to 10 month process of with a series of hearings and that. And I'm going to try and see if I'm doing this right and share my screen and go over some of the things that um, go over some of the basics of the hearing process, and where the wells would be right now in the court process. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen and uh, see if I can figure this out. Anyway, so let's see. Okay, let me see. Share screen. I only have one monitor, so I hope this works. And let's see, share screen. Okay. Okay, so let's try this and see if this works. I can't even ask anyone if they can see it or not. That's not what I wanted to share, though. That's not right. Let me see. Let me go back. Let me try that again. Let's see. Oh, wait. Okay, I may not be able to figure this out. Okay, let me try it again. Share screen. Share, and let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. I hope you guys can see this. I hope I may not even be doing it right. But hopefully I am, and I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know how to make it bigger. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you can see this, but I'm just gonna like do a brief overview, of how the court system, and I'm assuming it's the same in most states. This that I'm looking at is California law. So there's some tabs here, and then just kind of has the description of the dependency process. Okay, so, and I kind of went over that already. Why what the the petitions and the hearings and the jurisdiction hearing and the disposition hearing and the 6-month review and the permanency hearing and the 2-6 hearing. So I'll go over some of the basic reasons that a child may, become a dependent of court and be removed from a parent's custody. And so the process begins when someone reports suspected child abuse or neglect, or when a minor left without support as a result of parents' incarceration, institutionalization, or a parent unwilling to provide care. An investigation is done by the Department of Social Services, and if it's believed that the child's safety requires court protection, a petition is filed to declare the child a dependent of the court. Okay, so we already know, like, they were removed from their care, and, no matter how much Dawn wants to say, oh, the kids were in danger, and that's why they removed them. They don't remove children for those reasons, and they don't put them in foster care for those reasons. They there would be a big legal battle or legal problem if that were the case. They have to have, all their ducks in a row to go through the court process, for CPS to remove a child. Now, I do have a really big problem with that household having, multiple calls to law enforcement for DV, for, Allie called because apparently, there were allegations that Candus wouldn't let Allie's children's wouldn't let Allie up there to get her children when they were there. Threats made. The police were called then. The police were called. We heard lots of 911 calls, from when Molly Golightly and them went down there and got all those previous 911 calls. The only one we don't have is on the day that Summer disappeared on June 15th. We don't have. They've not released that one yet. So I have to think that it's in, that it's going to be part of evidence. So we know that there's been multiple calls to LE. And if that was the case, I really want to know, how soon did CPS get involved with this family? Because it should have happened a long time ago. It should have happened probably before Jose was there. It should have happened after Jose left, when Dawn got arrested that time. All those officers would have had to do, they should have asked, are there children in the home, when they were there taking that report for DV? And, the call that Candus made to law enforcement on that day, that October date. And, I want to know, was CPS, did they make visits to that house before in 2020? Did they get, because what happens is if a police officer goes to a residence, I know this from experience, and goes to a call for DV at a home and discovers that there are also minor children there, they will follow up. They will place a call to CPS to go to social services to do a visit at that home. And then CPS makes a visit, and then it goes from there, whether or not the allegations are substantiated, whether or not they may do a visit and interview the family and interview the children and see that the house is in order and everybody seems okay, and maybe it was a one-time call to police that daddy was doing this or that, and they feel that the children are safe to stay there. But we know there was multiple calls to that house. But what we don't know is how many times did CPS go to that house? How many times did they, and if they never made contact with Dawn or Candus, how many times did they go there and not make contact with anybody? How many times did they go there and have contact with Dawn or Candus? We don't know that. I don't know if we're ever going to know that. What we do know is they did finally go and remove the boys after Summer had already been missing, which is really very sad, because do we know, could it have saved Summer's life if they had made visits prior? If this process had started much earlier? We don't know. We're never going to know that. We're probably never going to know that. So, how the case gets started is the dependency process begins when someone reports suspected child abuse or neglect, or when a minor left without support. Okay, so we know that. And then the investigation, is done. And the Department of Social Services makes a visit. And if they believe that the child's safety requires court protection, a petition is filed to declare the child a dependent of the court. And that's when it starts. The children are removed from the home. And some of the basic reasons that they would become dependents are, minor suffering or having substantial risk of suffering serious physical harm inflicted non-accidentally by a parent or guardian. Boom, that one right there. Allegations of that, in my opinion. We've all heard those types of allegations. A minor suffering serious physical harm or illness due to failure of parent to adequately supervise, protect minor, or neglect, failure of parent to provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, medical treatment, or inability of parent to provide regular care due to a parent's mental illness, developmental disability, or substance abuse. Boom. Check. Check one box, two box. Minor suffering serious emotional damage, severe anxiety, depression, aggressive behavior towards self or others as a result of conduct of parent. I think we can check that box. Minor suffering SA by parent, or parent fails to protect the minor from SA. Minor left without support as a result of parents' incarceration, institutionalization, or a parent unwilling to provide care. Okay, so this is like a graph of sort of a chart of the proceedings, court proceedings. It starts, and I went over this the last video, so I won't really go into detail about all of this because I did go over it in the last video, but I didn't show you a chart, and I wanted to have something here to show you so you could see. Let me see, can I make this bigger? I'm not very good at any of this, and I'll get better, but I'm not very good. Let me see. No. I don't see anywhere where I can make it bigger, so I'm sorry. So, okay, so we know that with the Wells, we got to the 6-month review hearing, right? The juvenile court must review the cases of all children placed in foster care at least once every 6 months. At the first review hearing, information is given on the parents' progress with their reunification plan, a court-ordered services, and on how the child is doing in foster care. The court may return the child to his home or may order that the child continue to live in a foster home. And that all depends on where the parents are in their reunification process. They were given a reunification plan and what their responsibilities are and what they were supposed to do. We don't know what that is. We have an idea because these guidelines give us an idea of what a parent's role would be and what their responsibilities would be. And so we know, according to these documents, we know what some of those things would be. And I personally know because I went through the process because of my own daughter. And so, at the 6-month hearing, if there's not anything, if the parents are working on their stuff, maybe they're still in a treatment program or they're, at some stage of their process of their court orders, then the judge would probably recommend that the child stay in the custody of foster care and put another hearing out a little bit later. If the parents aren't doing anything, if they're not trying to work towards reunification with their child or children, the court doesn't wait around for a parent to get on the ball. They don't wait around. They're given strict instructions. The parents have to follow certain things, and if they don't, you don't get your kids back. It's that simple. If you want your children back home with you, there are cases, and I'm going to read a little bit of one in a minute, but there are cases of people like a woman being beaten by her husband or father of her children, and the children are there and they witness it and they see it, and they're removed, and the mother is maybe fearful, very fearful of the man, and is scared to leave, or is scared talk about things. That makes a whole nother problem, because the court recommends usually that either that person leave the home and go through the process by themselves as the mother to get her children back, or stay with the man. And so I'm going to kind of read a little story later, and it's a little sad, and it's a little good. So okay, so then you have the permanency hearing, and that must be held within 12 months of the date the child entered foster care. Okay, because the court is all about reunification and or a permanency plan. They do not leave children in limbo, in foster care, only because their parents won't get their what together, right? So the court, they follow a pretty strict guideline, and they hold the parents accountable if they want to get their children back. So the permanency hearing is held, and the courts always want to try to place the children with a family member or someone that they know who is safe and reliable, reliable home for them to be in. However, that's not always possible, and they have to, be in a stranger's home who is a foster home. So then at that permanency hearing, the termination, they start talking about the termination of parental rights, right? So the court will decide if the child can safely be returned home, or if efforts to reunify the child with her birth family should end. In some cases, the court may decide to continue trying to reunify the family, and it is important to remember that terminating reunification services does not terminate parental rights at this point. The child's parents are often able to continue visits and other involvement with the child, even if the court terminates reunification services. So what that means is at 6 months, if drug and alcohol treatment, if that was a requirement and that's been offered, and there's been beds available, and they turn down those beds and things, if things like that are happening, the court's going to know that. The social workers report to the courts, and they write a report for the judge, and they're not going to reunify a child if the parents aren't doing their thing. But at that point, the termination of parental rights isn't happening just yet, okay? And so if the child cannot return home, another permanent plan will be selected at the permanency hearing. The plan could be adoption, legal guardianship, or another planned permanent living arrangement. The preferred choice is the most permanent home possible for the child. So the court considers first adoption. If that's not possible, then legal guardianship. And if that's not possible, then, they whatever, if it's in the best interest of the child, then the judge orders another planned permanent living arrangement. And so then we have the 2-6 hearing, okay, and that's often the termination of parental rights, and the social workers make another report, and another assessment is done, and that So the county social worker prepares a report for this hearing that includes information about the child and a preliminary assessment of whether the child is likely to be adopted and may identify any prospective adoptive parents. In my case, through this whole court process, I knew that the ending would be me adopting my granddaughter. But in some cases, if there's no adoptive home that's been identified, then the court can order adoption as the permanent plan and order the county social worker to find an appropriate adoptive home for the child. So they may have been with foster parents who have only decided to foster children and not to adopt children. So then those children would leave that home and go to another. They'd have to find, someone who was planning on fostering and adopting. And in this case, there's 3 boys. There's 3 boys. And allegedly, these boys have been affected by their parents' behaviors, right? And the oldest boy, he was in it the most because he's the oldest. And so I feel really bad for him. It's very, very sad. Okay. There was another. Okay, I think this is the one I wanted to read you about. Well, this one talks about legal guardianship, what that is, and what adoption is, and the post-permanency hearing, which is a hearing that takes place 6 months after the permanency hearing. And okay, so this is a one-parent story of reunification and personal advice. Okay, I am sharing my story because I was a parent in the California dependency system, and I want to help you understand what goes on in court. If you're like me, when you first go to court, you feel scared. Your child has been taken from you. You don't know when you'll see him or her again, or when they'll come home. You don't know what's going to happen, and you hear lots of words that you don't understand. This is all true. You might feel like people are looking at you like you're a criminal. You're not. And you need to know this is not a criminal court. Correct. Everything in the dependency court is confidential unless you face a criminal charge related to your dependency case. So let that one go. This is not criminal court, and the judge is not going to send you to jail. Not this judge. You may think that people think that you're a bad parent. Forget that. It's not what the dependency system is about. It's about figuring out how to help you deal with all the stresses of life so that you can be there for your kids in the way that you'd really like to be. Everybody has problems, doctors, lawyers, everyone. So don't get upset or overreact. Life can really be too much for anyone, and there are times in everybody's life when they just can't keep it together without some support. We've all been there. Maybe we've all not admitted it, but I think everybody at some time in their life. When I first came into the system, I kept everything a secret because I didn't want Child Protective Services in my business any more than they already were. My social worker never knew that I was getting beat up because I was afraid that she might want to keep the kids away from me even longer. So I stayed in a bad situation without any help. My children were taken from me 3 times before I finally wised up and got the help that I needed to deal with the problems that kept me in my addiction and in the relationship with my husband. Looking back, I know I could have gotten my kids back faster and not had them taken again and again if I'd simply asked for what I really needed. It turned out that I needed help. There were many doors of opportunity there for me, but I didn't open them. That's because I had a lot of shame about CPS coming into my life to show me how to be a mother to my kids. Yeah, that can be shameful. That can be a hard thing to swallow. You can't, it's hard to swallow your pride. I thought I was doing okay. And it was embarrassing to have someone from outside pointing fingers at me and telling me I was not doing okay. My husband already blamed me for everything, and now CPS was jumping in on me too. I had a lot to fear that my husband would beat me worse or even kill me, and fear that I would never get my kids back. And I was angry. I felt a lot of anger at myself for letting that craziness go on. I also felt a lot of pain at not being there for myself or my kids. Sometimes I felt angry at CPS or the social worker, but I was really just angry about my whole life. Back then, even after I admitted that I had a problem, I could just sit there and think about doing something different in my life, but still not do it. It's very hard to plan. It's very hard to plan to change things when you don't have anyone to give you support. And most times there's someone trying to keep you from changing. In this case, meaning her husband, I guess. Sometimes you get so mad and discouraged that you can't fix your problems by yourself, even if you want to. You need to reach out for help. And that's why I finally did. What finally made me do the right thing is that I was tired. I wanted a new life for myself, a better life. Well, I did it. I changed. I stopped thinking about what I couldn't do and started thinking about what I could do, and it worked. I went through the dependency system 3 times before I didn't take 3 times. I didn't take care of what I needed to. I really put my kids and myself through a nightmare. It takes courage for this woman to admit all of this, right? I hope that you can learn from my mistakes, and maybe you can also learn from what I finally did that worked. Take what helps and leave the rest alone. You've got to figure out for yourself what you're willing to give up or not. The choice is yours. But once the court's involved, you have to decide whether you're going to make this system work for you and your kids, and you can just play the game, or you can really deal with the deep problems that need to come out in the light and get fixed. There is hope. My whole family was messed up before of drugs and the life, so I had no support. But if I could get clean and stay clean, leave my abusive relationship, get my kids all back with me, and find and keep a good job, there's no reason you can't do it too. So take advantage of the things in this booklet you think might be helpful to you. Let your social worker know what you think would be useful to you and your kids during this hard time. Keep focused and don't let yourself get distracted with hurt, anger, guilt, or whatever else is eating you up. What great advice. That's like awesome advice. The most important thing you can do to get your kids back, let the social worker and your attorney know right away about any relatives or other people close to you who can take your kids if they can't stay with you. When you get your visits set up, be sure to go to all your visits. I think it's been alleged that Dawn and Candus, they went and saw the boys once and decided it was too far to drive, I think, and allegedly didn't see them again. So yeah, they get visits, they get presented with a lot of tools and a lot of services that really, had CPS not got involved, they may not have had access to. And so the parents that don't get their kids back, they're the ones that don't agree to the services and don't agree to the reunification plan, who are not putting their kids first, right? They're not putting their kids first. Anyway, so there's just a lot of, talk about, her personal story and that. And which is really really amazing and brave for a woman to want to do that. Now we don't know who she was, but I think she's very brave in admitting her faults and wanting to put her children first. So this is another kind of graph here. I hope you guys are seeing what I'm sharing. Are you guys still seeing what I'm sharing? I'm looking at my. Am I not sharing my screen anymore? What's going on? Let me see. Huh. Oh, I just went over that and realized that I don't think it was. Was my screen not being shared? Oh my goodness, I'm really gonna have to learn this stuff, aren't I? Holy moly. Okay. I guess. Okay. So I guess you have to. All right. I apologize. I'm learning. I just realized none of that was being shared that I was reading, and I apologize for that. Let's see. Okay, let me hang on just a second. Let me see. Why am I not? Okay. Let's see if this works. Oh, okay. And I don't think I can zoom in on this either. I'm gonna have to figure out screen layout. Well, that doesn't help, does it? All right. Well, I will get better at this, everybody. I will get better at this. I didn't even realize until I looked over at my phone that it wasn't sharing everything, but that's okay. Let me see if this will share. This one. Let's see. Okay. I don't know why I'm seeing it bigger and it's showing small. Well, okay. Oh, I have a viewer here. I expose dirty cops that protect child abusers. Good for you. Good for you. Okay, so I don't know how to make this bigger. Yeah, I don't know how to do that. But this is a graph of like how things start. So a lot of times it starts with a police officer or a social worker or both. And nobody answers the door, like allegedly Dawn and Candus, nobody answered the door or anything. They said they kept avoiding CPS. Well, eventually it's their responsibility then to call law enforcement and get an escort to that home to make an eyes-on visit to the children who in the report, right? So this is kind of a graph of I don't even know if you guys can see my cursor. this is a graph of kind of how it starts, okay? Like a social worker or a peace officer, they go into protective custody, and then from there, it, goes into the court custody, and then a dependency petition, and on and on. It's like this whole graph here is part of the hearing process. So, all right, let's see. Let me remove that. Stop sharing that. I think that's all that I was going to go over with this. Let me just check my notes real quick. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of share some of some things. I wanted to also go over like what is said that happens to people who abuse children, right? Like what happens in substantiated cases, like, a case is brought to court and it's determined that the child or children have been abused. There's like a step-by-step guidelines that are followed. And so we know that a court does not, the dependency court is not a criminal court, right? It's a family court. However, people who abuse children and people who are their children are taken away because of the abuse. Depending on what the abuse is, there's different kinds of people, right? Different kinds of monsters out there is what I call them. Different kinds of monsters. I guess their severity of being a monster is what determines legally what would happen to them, right? So people who are found to have abused or neglected a child are generally offered voluntary help or required by a juvenile dependency court to participate in services that will help their children be safe. And in more severe cases or fatalities, police are called upon to investigate and may file charges in criminal court against the perpetrators of child maltreatment. In many states, certain types of abuse, such as SA and serious physical abuse, are routinely referred to law enforcement. Why has Candus been able to be out and not have any charges against her for the crimes they committed to those children? The children have been removed. There is just cause. The children they have now had their parental rights revoked. No more to have those children. Those children will never be in their custody again. So why is Candus still parading all over YouTube? Still, I mean, it's crazy to me. Why have there not been charges against Candus and Dawn, both of them? But Candus is still out. She's still out running amok, right? Getting drunk, doing all that she's doing. Why have there not been criminal charges filed against her for the crimes committed to those children? We know there were crimes committed to them because they're not being put back home. So whether or not criminal charges are filed, the perpetrator's name may be placed on a state child maltreatment registry if abuse or neglect is confirmed. So it's similar to the RSA list. The registered SA list. It's a registry is a central database that collects information about maltreated children and individuals who are found to have abused or neglected those children. These registries are usually confidential and used for internal child protective purposes only. However, they may be used in background checks for certain professions. They should be used in all background checks, such as those working with children. So children will be protected from contact with individuals who may mistreat them. In my opinion, these laws that we're trying to get changed with how CPS handles these children's cases, like if oh my gosh, if a parent is put on this registry for child abuse, that registry should be known. Like she had her first set of children removed for maltreatment, for abuse. Like allegedly, that's what her children were removed. The reason they were adopted out, right? So why was she able to have 4 more children? She should have been charged with something, with some criminal charges from the first set of kids, put on that registry, and I think that registry should be known to all hospitals, right? All hospitals delivering babies. When a mother goes in, this is how I feel. This is my own opinion. When a mother goes in to have a child, I mean, if you're a good parent, you don't have to worry about it, right? You wouldn't even think about the possibility of there being some sort of registry with your name on it. Like, wouldn't even enter our minds. But those who mistreat children, it should pop up, right, on some sort of system when a mother gives birth, and it should be told to authorities. Like, I really think that should be a thing. Like, it should be a thing. It shouldn't be a confidential registry. It's like, why is there a registry if it's confidential and only used if you're getting a job with kids? Well, it should be used if you're having kids. That's how I feel. It should be used if you're giving birth and having more children after you mistreated and abused other children of yours. And like that part really kind of angers me, because there's an RSA registry, right? And apparently there is a registry for abused and neglected children, parents. That should be one of the things that we put. Maybe Doug at No Thanks can see about adding that in. I don't know if you're aware, if you see this, Doug. I'm not sure. I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm a big fan of many creators, but that should be something that goes into that bill, like a registry for parents who abuse their children. Okay, and then then children, they get into foster care. It's not only horrendous for the parents, but then you've got these children who are may have been severely abused and maltreated, and then they have to go into foster care, and they're already scared at their own home, and then they've got to go into another home, an unknown, and worry and be scared and go to a different school possibly. And like, these children are put through a lot. All children who are removed from their parents' care are severely traumatized, in my opinion. Many of them are. Sometimes they can be placed with a relative. In my case, my daughter had 4 children. Her daughter is her youngest child. She had 3 boys and 1 girl. The oldest are a set of twins. She was she was a really great mother when she had those twins. And for their first, I'd say, 6 years of life, they're now 19. She was a good mother. She lived with me. She took really good care of the kids. And before she had the kids, as a teenager, she was always in trouble. But when she got pregnant with them, and through the pregnancy, through the birth, and through their first 5 or 6 years, I was I was amazed that she was doing so well, and that she really loved the kids. I mean, she breastfed, but she couldn't breastfeed. She had to use a pump, like they wouldn't latch on, so she had to use a pump. So she was pumping like 24 hours a day. She was really great with them, took really good care of them, loved them, cared for them. Um, but, she ended up getting back into trouble again, and, kind of, then she kind of got out of trouble. She met a guy, she had another child, she had another son. Um, but I think he's 13 now. I'd say when he was about 12, 11, 12, she started back into drugs and not doing the right thing. Um, I did not live. I had moved away, didn't live nearby. The kids would come and visit me. I would go there and visit. But when my granddaughter was born, I already knew that my daughter was doing drugs, and I had already made calls to CPS, and I wasn't successful. And then about 4 years ago now, my daughter got evicted, locked out of her apartment. She became homeless, was a active drug user. The three boys went to their father's house, and mine, kind of both. Um, but my daughter kept her daughter with her, and she was only 3 at that time. And I started. She was in a different city and county, and I started trying to do the CPS process. Like, I started calling and making reports. Like, my daughter is homeless. She's a drug user. My granddaughter's with her. She's only 3 years old. Like, we need to get my granddaughter out of her care. And it took a while because, I mean, without me being there every single day, like walking the streets and going to all the places, that she was, I couldn't do it. I did it as many times as I could and as much as I could. And I kept calling CPS as much as I could until they would listen, until, what I was told was, well, we can't go out walking the streets looking for her every day. Like, if you have a place she's at, we can go to that place. And it was very frustrating for probably 6 months or more, till I finally, tracked her down because she made a post on social media on somebody else's picture. Like, I was very diligent about watching everywhere I could watch, searching everything, social media stuff I could search. And finally I found a post, and it said where she was at. And I called them, and I think I used one of those services to find out like the address and stuff. And I gave that to the worker, and they went there, and she was there, and they removed my granddaughter. However, at the time, because they asked the parents, well, after the 24 hours, after the 48 hours, they have to go to court and show just cause. So at that time, they went to court, and my daughter said she did not want her daughter coming to live with me. And only out of spite, selfish reasons, did she do that. So normally a child would be placed with a family member. The family member's background would be done and all of that, but they would be placed with the family member, and then the family member would go through the steps to for permanency or guardianship, what have you. So I had to go through the license process, have my whole background. I had to go to be a licensed foster mother in order for my granddaughter to be placed with me. And so that took like another 4 months. And I'm extremely thankful. I thank God that my granddaughter, she was removed in the month of August, came to me in December. So from August to December, she was with a really great family, Christian family. To this day, we still talk and we still have some visits with them. They're just very, very good people, and I thank God for that. But she was somewhere where she was loved and taken care of until I could get my license and become her foster mother, And so then you have all the school stuff because she started kindergarten. She hadn't had any of her vaccinations. In order to go to school, she had to get caught up. I felt so bad for her because she had all these vaccinations in a really short period of time. For me to be able to get her into kindergarten and, do everything. I took her, she was seen by the eye doctor. She had, what some people would call lazy eyes. Had they been treated earlier, she probably wouldn't have any vision problem, but she does now. She wears glasses. She had surgery on her eyes. She wears glasses. She's now 8 years old, and she's such a joy. I'm so blessed to have her, and I love her dearly. And I'm getting kind of older, and I'm just praying that I can still be vibrant enough for for her. But yeah, so some of the stories that my granddaughter would say, it would be like memories that would come to her. Like maybe we'd be at the park or something. She'd say, I remember when mommy, I won't say my daughter's name, but she never called her just mommy or mother. She called her mommy and then her name. And she'd say, I remember when mommy so-and-so, when we lived in the tent, and she described things, that she saw, fears that she had. She had nightmares for quite a while when she first came to live with me. And it was horrendous, the things that she was put through. I'm sad to say that my daughter still has not gotten help. It's been really hard. She's not seen her daughter in 4 years. My daughter has not seen her mother in 4 years since the day she was removed from her care. My daughter has since now has ovarian cancer, and she started chemo, stopped chemo, has never really stopped using the drugs. So then, they won't give her the chemo, and I haven't talked to her or known where she's at for this time for about the last 4 or 5 months now. Every once in a while I will hear from her. She's still homeless, living on the streets, has ovarian cancer, active in her drug use. But I have to be strong for my granddaughter. I have to be the voice of reason. I don't allow myself to get too um, too wound up in my emotions and my thoughts of my daughter because it just doesn't serve me. And it's very hard to be a mother who knows their daughter is going through all those things, and you can't do. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. My daughter was given whole so many services. She was given all the chances. She was given, beds in rehab and just on and on and on. She was given so many services and so much support, while during that CPS process. And when it gets to the 6-month mark, that's when they terminate the services to the parent. If the parent has made no progress, then the services from social services is terminated. And then it's shortly after that the parental rights are terminated. So like for Candus, her parental rights have been terminated, but she knew that at 6 months. She knew that 6 months after those boys left her house at the 6-month mark that she was not getting those boys back, because it would have been at that 6-month hearing that they would have terminated her social services. So any services that they offered her were terminated at that 6-month mark if she was not making any progress. And in my opinion, she wasn't making any progress. We all saw her on YouTube. We all saw her. So it's kind of crazy. It's very sad for children. I really hope that those boys are getting a lot of support. I really hope that those boys are getting a lot of support and have some resources that work for them. It's just so sad. And then we have all these other cases. There was a case locally. I think it's been about 3 or 4 weeks that a mother drowned her 2 children in the bathtub. And the dad came home and she told them that she had drowned the kids in the bathtub. One was like a few months old and one was, 3 or something, I think. And it's like, what is happening with these parents? What is happening with these parents? I don't get it. Like, why? Why are we, is it because of, the virus? Is it because of all the lockdowns? Is it because, I'm sure that, there was a lot more kids having to stay home where school was their safe place, right? School, to a lot of kids, is their safe place. And during all this lockdown, almost 2 years of kids having, distance learning and homeschooling and everything, these kids had to stay home with these abusive parents in these abusive households, right? And many of them were harmed even more. And I kind of think that we're seeing all this, escalation of behaviors from these parents. They're abusing their children or killing their children. It's like, why? I don't understand. It's so heartbreaking. I don't understand, how a lot of these things, why these things are happening. That's what I kind of attribute it to is these lockdowns and all these kids who were at home who normally would have been at school and been seen by teachers and staff and known if they were okay or not, and They were getting abused once they got home from school, but during the lockdown, they were getting abused the whole time that they were home. And it's really sad because we all know that a lot of that was probably going on. Um, oh boy, I just got an alert. Oh, wow. Body found, a mummified body found in wall identified as missing Oakland man. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. God, it makes me think of Summer and all the allegations of, did Dawn put her in the wall, and where is she? Where is Summer, right? Where is she? And why can't anybody find her? Somebody knows where she's at. Somebody knows what happened to her. Why are we not able to find her? I don't get it. We all want to see some action from law enforcement. We know they're doing something. We know something's going on, but come on, right? Why isn't Candus being arrested for crimes to the children? Why isn't she being questioned or arrested? I don't get it. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit of this. A man whose mummified remains were found behind a wall at Oakland's Kaiser Convention Center. What? Last month has finally been identified. I'm not going to say where that's at. Coroner's Bureau said the man whose body was found on March 9th by a construction worker was Joseph Edward Mejica, 42, of Oakland. Oh my gosh. Mejica was last seen alive on August 22nd of 2020. And according to Oakland's police, was a known visitor to homeless camps in the city. Why was he in the wall? Oh my gosh. I lost my place. Okay. A spokesperson for the Coroner's Bureau told the Chronicle on Monday that a cause of death for Mejica was still unknown. However, that is despite law enforcement not suspecting foul play in the identification of the remains. It was suggested that Mejica could have fallen from a height inside the building, which was abandoned in 2005 before renovation work began last month, and became stuck between an inner and outer wall. Over time, the weight of his body went down in between the wall, sinking slowly down the wall as it began to decompose. Oof. When his remains were located last month, police initially believed Mejica was a victim of a homicide before coroners suggested the remains could have been there for up to 5 years, according to reports. Holy moly. And Mejica was found 2 years after he was reported missing, with his family offering a $5,000 reward for the information leading to his whereabouts. How sad. Wow. The authorities were fortunate to make an identification, and that is a very unique investigation for us, in that the person was listed missing and found well over a year later. Wow. The key piece of evidence in the identification was a prosthetic device inserted in Mejica's ankle in 2005 after he had an alert. After he had an alertation, which was reportedly found in the wall. Oh, I think they misspelled something right there. That is tragic. Wow. Well, everybody, I've been on here. I know everybody, I'm talking to myself. I've been on here for a little more than an hour. I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I'm going to I'm going to practice a little more at this and get a little better at it. And I hope that when you do see this, that you enjoy it, and that we can find Summer. Let's all keep her name out there. Summer Moon Utah Wells. We want you to come home. We pray that you come home. We pray that you're found. I kind of think we all feel like, the news is not going to be good when she's found, but we need her. We need it to be over, right? We need this whole thing to be over, and we need her to come home. We need her to be put to rest, and have these parents pay for what they've done. And even if that's only crimes to the boys and nothing about Summer, they need to be punished. They have done wrong. There's proof now that they have done wrong because their children were removed from their care and their parental rights were revoked. That does not happen easily. Okay, we know they committed crimes to those kids, because I just went over all the things that could be considered crimes and why your children would be taken away and why your parental rights would be terminated. And I kind of hope, if somebody sees this, could you share it out to Doug at No Thanks, and have him, find out about that registry for neglect and maltreatment that parents get on if there's criminal charges against them. I think that needs to be a bigger thing. I think that really needs to be something that hospitals have, that it's not only daycare centers or places with children, or like that needs to be a serious list, just like the RSA list, right? Yeah, I'm going to look into that more, I think, and see exactly what that is and when it was started, maybe, and what's the gist of it. But anyway, I want to thank the one person alt auditor. I don't know if you're still here, but if you are, I thank you for listening. And I thank anybody who may listen after this. I hope you will. I hope you find it informative, and I hope you all have a blessed day. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.